Evening, guys. Just got finished with Terrence Pop's latest stream. Great show, by the way. Big thanks to everybody who shows up to support those guys and to them for being there. Big thanks to D-Man50 and all the guys that were promoting everybody's channel. I know you don't have to do that stuff, but we appreciate it, and we're happy to change subs with everybody. And I wanted to talk about a video that I saw today from a channel that I had just found. I had seen some of his content linked into collabs of a bunch of channels, but this was the first time I'd actually looked at his channel and watched his entire videos on things. It was the lead attorney. Now he represents essentially the male side of family court, and he had a couple guests on, but the primary focus for this clip of his video, or of his stream that day, was to focus on a woman that basically wanted to throw in her 2 cents worth into the ring on why she didn't want a joint custody with her child's father. And I'm going to try to figure out how to put the link in this, because if you don't know who this guy is and you haven't seen his video, it is a fucking classic. This is gold. The excuses that this woman brought up as to why, despite the courts wanting to do a 50-50 custody with her and the father of their children, or their child, she could not settle for that and had to fight it. Now, she was trying to basically point out her struggles, right? And the reasons why she felt that the father didn't deserve to have joint custody. And let me tell you, it's not some of the worst ones I've heard, but you rarely hear it come from their mouths, you know? Like, to actually hear it come out and finally be like, yeah, I'm going to admit to the absolute nonsense and childish behavior as to why I want to destroy my child's relationship with their father. This girl let it out, and the look on the attorney's face, or the host's face, he is an attorney as well, so the host's face was priceless, and I'm sure we will all kind of get the same reaction. I had the same face on. I won't deny it. But apparently the struggles that she had, why she felt the court system was actually unfair to her, even though, despite the judge wanting to see a joint custody situation come out of this, she did push the matter and get sole custody and physical placement. But I guess, I can't remember how she phrased it, but the pressures that the court put on her was basically they requested proof of her school history. So I don't know if she had a degree at the time, or she was just a standard college graduate or high school graduate. But they wanted a record. And that was literally all it took for her to state that the court was unfair to her. Okay. So it's not even as hard as to get a background check, I guess. I mean, I can pull up my school records pretty goddamn quick, and not at a terrible burden to me, but apparently this was abusive to her. And the other excuse she made was essentially, and we've all heard this one, well, I carried the child. I carried the child for 9 months. I was the incubator. And because the father, didn't have to go to prenatal examinations and checkups, things of that nature, basically he didn't deserve joint custody. How many of you guys have had kids with a woman and Maybe you've been to a couple, but you didn't go to most. I have 4 kids. I haven't been to most. I've been to a few, but I haven't been to most. So essentially, that disqualifies me from having joint custody with my children, according to this woman. Awesome. I'm sure you guys have heard these things before, and sometimes worse. And I have to ask the question. This question is for the women who, if a woman ever views this, I kind of gotta ask, how do you not expect men to treat you like children when you behave? And this is a standard behavior. When it comes to the family courts, this is the standard attitude. We just don't get that truth all the time. We don't get it. When we never generally get a chance to force an explanation out of you as to why, 90% of women now in 2021 at least, we're going to the family courts requesting full custody and physical placement of the children, and for the father to either be cut out completely or treated at best as a visitor, and to essentially be nothing but a payment plan for you. And this lawyer really he really kind of hit a nail on the head, because he asked her plain out, and most women have been asked this and they've actually kind of went against what she said. He asked her if she felt that a father's role in a child's life was important, and she actually said yes. Believe it or not, most women will tell you no. They don't believe we have anything to add to a child's life in this modern age. But she agreed that, a father played an important role. And it just wasn't important enough for her not to just say, yeah, we can have joint custody of our kid. Because reasons, and I'm the incubator. It was pretty sad excuse. I'm sure we can all agree. And very frustrating, because despite what the courts initially wanted to see happen, and despite how sad that kind of excuse is, I mean, if the judge heard this, if she had stated this in the family court, would the judge have actually said, yeah, totally legitimate reason? I mean, I don't know what she actually said to the judge or what her attorney put out there, but I'm sure they didn't use the fact that the woman was an incubator. That's literally your fucking job. That's in nature. That's just the way it is. You don't want us to develop the artificial womb, because then you've literally lost that bargaining chip. And the fact that you carried the egg throughout your life, that isn't going to fly either. But this should not have flown. This woman should have joint custody with her former spouse, whatever the case may be, but that child's father. The courts wanted it initially, and yet somehow she managed to convince them to go against their best judgment. Now that's rare in itself. From my personal experience, and from what I've gathered from everyone else that I've talked to about it or heard from, to find a judge that says, yeah, 50-50 custody should be pretty standard, right off the top, kind of, this is where it should be. That's rare. That's super fucking rare in my books. I would classify that as super rare. But yet somehow she just managed to say whatever, and the judge even overturned his initial decision, or the court's initial decision, on what they thought should have been the case. Now, this woman, like I said, has admitted to stating that a father is an important role in her child's life. We all agree with that. we mostly agree that the biological father is the important role in their child's life. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to disrespect stepfathers in any way, but let's face it, 9 times out of 10, when you've met a single mother, there is a father in that child's, or orbiting around that child, wanting to be the father in that child's life, whether they're with the mother or not. That's just the standard. Men are not as bad as they kind of point us out to be when it comes to fatherhood. But the court numbers don't reflect that, do they? Because we're at a strong disadvantage when it comes to family courts. However, when excuses like what this woman was saying, and I mean, it was one of those holy shit, my blood pressure's going through the fucking roof moments, and you could see it on the attorney's face as well. And he finally just cut her off at one point, but you could see it, that most sane people would not agree with allowing these points of view or these opinions on why she should have sole custody and physical placement as being a great thing. It should be slapped away like the speak of a child, you know. When children mumble all kinds of random crap, I mean, you just completely disregard it. You don't take it seriously. Well, this woman was taken seriously, and she should have been treated like a child, because she is one, and the majority of them are. Not all, the majority. You know, for her to go on and say, essentially towards the end, that, oh, well, I got lucky, and, you know, my child's good now because now I'm remarried, and this child has a stepfather. Okay, that's fine and dandy, but this child actually has a biological father. And this is where me and stepfathers don't get along. It's because a father gets less respect when it comes to the actual mother of that child, the family courts, the media, all the social circles, than a stepfather would. There is a big problem there, especially when you've got most fathers that are literally beaten down into the fucking dirt simply because their wife or former partner wasn't happy. And they just decided, well, if I don't need you, and this is literally the words out of my ex-wife's mouth, if I don't need you, they don't need you. And we're fine without you, and you're going to be fine without us. Well, I had my kid contact me 4 years later, stating the very obvious that that wasn't the case. So the courts aren't doing this based on the child's best interest, because most children that have gone through this and are now adults themselves will tell you the exact same thing. This was not in my best interest. So why the fuck are you doing it? Why are you continuing to do it? Well, I'll tell you why. It's a $52 billion a year industry, and it's all about numbers. We know that. Here in the mgtow community, we share that information all the time. We know that this is the case. It's a business. Now, to find a judge that doesn't view a family court as a business, or the numbers on his buddies in crimes fucking books, which is generally social workers, because they all get paid from the government based on their numbers. So the more cases that they have where they're collecting more money, or they have more in the books as single parents, especially when it comes to single women, because as I stated in one of my videos, the amount of programs out there for a woman, especially a single mother, is longer than my arm. It's in the thousands, depending on which country and state you're in, or which province you're in, whatever the case may be. But you find those programs for men, even single dads, you will not see a fucking thing. unless it's a third-party organization that is not backed by the government. So, when social workers add numbers and the courts add numbers, the state gets paid based on their numbers from the federal governments. That is the case. Collecting money, well, who else collects money? Mobs, loan sharks, debt collectors. I mean, those are all still businesses, whether they're legal or not. So this is essentially what the family courts have become. And that's why more men today are finding mgtow or the red pill philosophy than ever could. And more young men are listening to what we're saying. They're seeing the results from their fathers, grandfathers, uncles, cousins, whatever the case may be. They are seeing what other men are going through, and they are throwing up their hands and saying, no fucking thanks. Here in British Columbia, we have more past 40 women that literally their only option that they believe is to go to fertility clinics. Sorry, tongue-tied. And it's not because they can't find good men. It's because the good men aren't good enough for them. Their standards are so astronomically high that it's not even funny. And no man can actually hold up to them. So, with that said, gentlemen, go watch that video. I'm going to try to put a link into it. But, yeah, it's the lead attorney. Great video. And we'll talk to you guys later.